I won't be talking here about the specific technologies you should pick for your startup. It differs from project to project. But if you remember about those things, it can save you tens or even hundred thousands of dollars. Remember, making software is expensive, but repairing it is even more expensive. Today's episode will be a little bit different. Previous ones were called devlogs, but they weren't. I'm figuring out what type of content will be more engaged. Based on what I like, I want to try this form. Building startups is hard, very hard, and it can be a very tedious process. It can take years to finish a project, and picking technology stack can be a very challenging task. Even someone who can write the entire project by himself, I often struggle to finish them. This YouTube video is supposed to help me with that and hold me accountable for what I'm saying online. I have enough work. Why am I doing this to myself? The problem is that not only tech professionals are making startups, they're done by other people too. I want to address those tips to two groups of people. The first one contains only technical people, and the second one, non-technical people. Tip number one, don't overvalue yourself when it comes to technology. If you have some coding experience, make sure you're not too comfortable with your knowledge. Make sure you're not picking technologies that you know, but you're picking technologies that are great for the job. We as programmers often avoid repetitive tasks. If something can be done faster, we tend to automate things. But being comfortable shouldn't be one of them. One time I worked on a project where a client asked us to implement sockets, so bi-directional communication between clients and servers. And the developer I worked with knew only PHP at the time, and PHP only. So for him the greatest idea was to implement sockets in PHP, which for those of you who know is a very, very bad idea. So for all the programmers out there, sometimes you need to get outside your comfort zone, unfortunately. The second tip is quite funny because it says don't undervalue yourself when it comes to technology. So if you're a beginner programmer, you might stick to things you know, but for different reasons. I'm speaking for myself entirely. So when I was starting out, I was afraid of doing any kind of mistake. So I was holding tight to every technology I knew, just because I was afraid that if I go any further, I would make a mistake. And this was the biggest mistake I ever done in my career. It stopped me from evolving as a programmer and as an employee. But of course, don't be too cocky. Remember, balance. Balance is everything. And this tip also relates to non-technical people. I often hear that not knowing technology is the biggest discouragement when it comes to creating businesses in the 21st century. And that's basically not true. Remember, you can't do everything. We all have some unfair advantages over other people. And not knowing technology shouldn't be the only reason why you're not starting your business. So trust me, your strength will shine in other places. Tip number 3. Don't jump on any hype trains or don't give into any buzzword culture. In the IT world, we have a tendency to circle around some new fancy tech. We just can't help ourselves. New shiny things. Those things usually don't have a particular use case yet. These things becomes buzzwords and sometimes mean nothing in the real world. Often they become memes. Yeah, we have memes in technology. So there's a meme about AI, that AI is a bunch of nested ifs in a code. That's it. That's not always the case, but not every to-do app needs AI, right? So there's a second funny thing that people are given the resume of some developer and they are asked to find the Pokemon name among the list of technologies he's familiar with. And often people have troubles finding them because buzzwords. So tip number 4, I think it's one of the most important ones. Get a second opinion, or even a third one. It's a universal thing for both groups. If you're a developer, you might need to ask your friends. If you're not gone too far or you don't overcomplicate things in your app or in your tech stack or anything in that matter, basically ask if you've made the right choices. But if you're not a coder, remember that devs are just people, and people make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you work with freelancer or if you work with the entire software house, they are just still people, and they might even fall into the trap I talked about in the first tip. So if you have a friend or somebody that can help you, or even if you hire another company to help you evaluate the first one, this will save you nerves, time, and money. I won't be talking here about the specific technologies you should pick for your startup. It differs from project to project. But if you remember about those things I spoke about, it can save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Remember, making software is expensive, but repairing it is even more expensive. So based on those tips, I can tell you what I picked for my startup and what was my thought process while deciding which technology should I use. So I needed a few components for my app. I needed front-end mobile app, back-end app, a very small front-end application, and the configuration to bind them all. So when it comes to front-end mobile app, I had two choices: to go native or to go cross-platform. The first, go native, it's good, it's very efficient, but it takes a lot of time, money and energy to learn those two technologies, and basically it's hard to maintain two apps at the same time while being a single developer. The second option, going cross-platform, again, I have two options. I can go with React Native, which is JavaScript based, and Flutter, which is Dart based. Both of those frameworks are great, but I worked with Flutter previously, and I heard about some issues that you have when writing React Native, that React Native is translating things to the native code, which can result in something like you having the same element in iOS and Android looking very differently, not because it was programmed differently, but because the translation did something that makes it different. And Flutter is like a blank canvas. You draw things on it. If I have a blank canvas both on Android and iOS, I think I will stick to framework which is drawing on it and basically making sure that it looks the same on both platforms. Don't get me wrong, native languages, so the first option, is much faster, but not that much. And having the same code base, which is the biggest advantage of cross-platform languages, that you write a single app and then export it to iOS and Android, can save me a lot of time, money and energy. And at the beginning it's very important, so I'll stick to Flutter. So for the backend app, I usually these days stick with Nest.js with the TypeScript. I stick with it because I prefer the objective-oriented programming that is represented by TypeScript, and I like the form factor of Nest.js, which is a little bit different than Next.js, but I don't need the things that Next.js, which is a framework that is more popular these days, because I don't need support for server-side rendering or CSS compatibilities. So for this small front end, many people probably won't agree with me, but I will choose Angular. At this point, I will save time by sticking to it. Angular is more like structurally better for me, and I think when the project, the startup will grow, I will be better prepared with the Angular app than I am with the React app. I also talked about this with my friend, which is also a programmer, so I got the second opinion. And he also agrees with me on that topic, and Angular it is. To wrap this all up, I will go with the containers. To be specific, the Docker containers. This will give me the proper versioning and flawless updates, and basically more clearer structure of the components I'm using throughout my app. So that's the tech stack for my startup plans. Hopefully this video was helpful to you and I resolved all the issues you had when starting your startup journey. I would like to make more engaging content like this, more vlog style, as you say. And if you want to support me and my work and my channel and motivate me a little bit more, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you have any questions, make sure to DM me or write a comment below. And hopefully next week we'll start some heavy-duty coding, so maybe those technologies that I picked will be used for the first time. And that's it. That's all I have for today. And I will go because it's getting dark. And thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Bye.